Ramesh, only 7
Thank you,
minutes.
Deputy
Only
Chairman,
7
sir.
minutes. I will, only 7 minutes. You have 3 speakers. So,
7 minutes.
3
Okay,
speakers.
I'll try, sir.
Yeah.
So I rise to support this bill, and I congratulate the Health Minister for finally bringing this bill. It's been under discussion for almost 25 years. The first time the bill was introduced in February 2014, and today we will pass this bill unanimously and enthusiastically. But I'd like to make 3 general points and 2 very specific points on the bill. All the suggestions made by the Standing Committee have been accepted by the Minister. I once again congratulate him for that, and I wish all such bills by his government go through the Standing Committee process, and I wish all Standing Committee recommendations are given the same degree of seriousness with which Mr. Nadda has given this bill's recommendations. So, first of all, I'd like to say that this issue of HIV/AIDS is an issue on which there is no politics. And my mind goes back to the 26th of June 2001. This was a special session of the UN General Assembly on HIV/AIDS. June 26th, 2001, Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, Dr. C.P. Thakur was the Health Minister. And the statement on behalf of the Government of India at the UN General Assembly was made by Srimati Sonia Gandhi, who was then the leader of the opposition and the Congress president. So this is quite remarkable that at the UN General Assembly, a statement on behalf of the Government of India, with the Health Minister being present, was made by the leader of the opposition. That, of course, is a completely different era. But I'll just read 2 lines from Mrs. Gandhi's speech, which says, "In India, we have an all-party consensus on this issue, demonstrated by my speaking to you as leader of the opposition on behalf of my country." So this is the spirit that should guide democratic functioning. This is the spirit that should guide the functioning of Parliament, and this is the spirit that should guide building a universal consensus on such an important issue. I also remember, sir, when this statement was being prepared, there was a big debate in this country whether antiretroviral therapy should be introduced on a large scale or not. And Mrs. Gandhi's statement, which she made at the UN General Assembly, was the first time India committed to antiretroviral therapy, which is today considered to be one of the main reasons why the prevalence has been showing a declining trend. So I thought I must remind the House of this important statement that was made. Of course, it was made by Srimati Sonia Gandhi at the instance of the then Prime Minister, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So, 20 years ago, the headlines were India sitting on a time bomb, India on an AIDS volcano. But today, the spirit is a little more optimistic, because over the last 20 years, we have seen there are still causes of great concern. Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, Andhra, Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Goa. These are all states where prevalence rates are still very high. But I do want to acknowledge, sir, that there is one state in this country which has shown a consistently declining prevalence rate, and that state is the state of Tamil Nadu. Of course, what happens in Tamil Nadu is that in spite of all the political acrobatics that take place, it consistently delivers superior health outcomes. Barring Kerala, of course, Tamil Nadu is the most advanced state in this country in terms of health indicators, and that is reflected in its performance on HIV/AIDS prevalence, and I wish other states of this country were to follow Tamil Nadu's example. So my second point is, for the last 15-20 years, the AIDS control program in India has been supported externally. It has been supported by the World Bank, it's been supported by philanthropic organizations, but that era is over. We now have to support it on our own. Now, going forward, I think the Honorable Minister should take us into confidence and say that resources will not be a problem for the National AIDS Control Organization. This year, 2017-18, 2,000 crores has been provided for NACO, and it is the estimate of most professionals that this is about 400 crores short of what is required to implement the program. And I wish, sir, that the Health Minister consistently lobbies for a higher allocation, because we no longer have the luxury of external funding and we will have to support the AIDS control program on our own. So, my final general point is that the one area where we have shown weakness is blood banks. And I'm sorry to point out, sir, that money allocated for blood banks, particularly in Delhi and Chennai and some other metropolitan areas, is not being used. Now, I know the minister has an answer to that. This is, after all, the center can only do so much. The states have to do the bulk of the responsibility. But it is truly an extraordinary situation where we are allocating money and the money is not being spent for something so important as a blood bank. So I would flag this issue for the Honorable Minister's attention. So finally, 2 minutes more, on the bill. So, in spite of the fact that all the recommendations have been accepted of the Standing Committee, I just make 2 points. Clause 14 of the bill, the word that is used is as far as possible. Yeah. So that, this was a big debate that took place in the Standing Committee. It's a debate that's taken place in the health community. This is not a phrase that should have figured in the bill. As far as possible. Yes, yes. I would have preferred as far as feasible. That's one step better than as far as possible. But the ideal solution is to remove as far as possible, because antiretroviral therapy and diagnostics should be a right of every HIV patient, and it's not as far as possible. And my colleague, Mr. Rajiv Gowda, will be introducing an amendment, and I hope all the members will support this amendment. Sir, my second and final point is on Section 24. Section 24 of the bill deals with ombudsmen, but it has left the entire issue of the ombudsman to the state government. How will they be selected? What will they do? How will they function? The operational protocol for the ombudsman has been left to the state. I request the Honorable Minister to circulate model guidelines and, if possible, include those guidelines in the rules that will be notified for this Act, so that there is uniformity across states in the functioning of the Ombudsman, who is so critical for the implementation of this bill. So with these words, I once again congratulate the Health Minister for taking into account all recommendations of the Standing Committee, and I wish his example is followed by the rest of the Ministerial Cabinet. Thank you, sir.
But except as far as possible. Now, Mr.